I hooked up with a wealthy Manhattan socialite for $20 million. After making enough money, I planned to fake my death and disappear. I pretended to fall into the ocean, leaving my fate unknown. 3 years later, the socialite caught me in a bar. She smiled with effortless grace, pulling me up from amidst 18 female companions, the tip of her blade lightly tilting my chin. Liar, do you want to lose your left hand or your right? I've been with Victoria for 2 years. Victoria is a high society lady from New York's upper circles, wielding immense power. I'm just an ordinary office worker. People in Victoria's circle have quite a few criticisms about me, but they all hold back out of fear of offending Victoria. Until yesterday's auction, the eldest son of the Sterling family took the opportunity to bully me while Victoria was away. Cameron Sterling, also Victoria's former fiancé. But Victoria broke off the engagement for my sake, disregarding the Sterling family's reputation. Cameron held a grudge against me for it, deliberately spilling red wine on my suit and implying in every way that I wasn't good enough for Victoria. For someone like me who always pays back in kind, how could I possibly swallow this insult? I sat on the edge of the bed, pinching my thigh hard until my eyes instantly reddened. Victoria beside me noticed my distress, tossed the documents aside, pulled me into her embrace, and began playing with my buttons. Ethan, I shouldn't have brought work home with me. Are you angry with me? I shook my head, burying my face pitifully in Victoria's bosom. I'm not angry with you, Tori. I lied to you yesterday. The wine on the clothes was actually spilled by Cameron. He said his hand slipped, and that I'm not worthy of you at all. I cautiously raised my head, my face an open book of grievances. Did you think so too? Sensing my gaze, Victoria's momentarily vicious glare vanished in an instant. Of course not. My Ethan deserves the best the world has to offer. I warned everyone 2 years ago, crossing you means crossing me. I'll deal with the Sterling family myself. Victoria's words instantly dragged me back to that moment 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was just a handsome office worker with nothing more to my name, scraping by with my broke old man. On a rainy night, after having some drinks, I rushed onto the street and got hit by Victoria's car. To my surprise, the notorious high society heiress of New York not only paid me a hefty sum for medical expenses, but also tended to my broken bones day and night. Victoria's rival noticed her special treatment of me and immediately approached me. I'll pay you, as long as you can make Victoria fall for you and break off her engagement with Cameron Sterling. Seeing the opponent's expression of absolute confidence, I thought, so what if you have money? $10 million. My pupils instantly dilated, and the grin I struggled to suppress made me look exactly like the Cheshire Cat. You should have said so earlier. Well, for the money's sake, it's not entirely impossible. I approached Victoria step by step, making her fall in love with me. With just a little pillow talk, I convinced Victoria to immediately call off her engagement. $10 million deposited. And the amount Victoria had spent on me over these 2 years far exceeded $10 million. I think I've genuinely fallen for Victoria. I decided to confess everything to Victoria, until I discovered another side of her. That day, I accidentally stumbled into the villa's basement. Victoria had Cameron tied to a chair. One by one, she snapped his fingers. Screams kept piercing my ears. Trembling with fear, I hid behind the door, terrified Victoria might see me. Since your hand slipped, you don't deserve it anymore. Cameron wept bitterly, tears streaming down his face. Tori, I really didn't mean to. I'll go kneel and apologize to Ethan. Just please stop torturing me. Let me go, won't you? Victoria didn't pause her movements. You know how much I hate liars. My body went limp, my heart half frozen, as Victoria said. I hate liars the most. I recalled lie after lie I told Victoria. If she found out I deceived her, my fate would be no better than Cameron's. The more I thought about it, the colder my spine grew, leaving only one thought in my mind. Run! By the time Victoria returned to the villa, evening was approaching. She had changed her clothes, but I could still catch faint whiffs of blood lingering on her. It must have splattered on her when she whipped Cameron. Victoria kissed my forehead and sat down across the dining table. Sorry, Ethan. Got held up by work. Seeing me steal glances at her between bites, Victoria immediately saw right through me. Her lips curled into a smile as she lightly tapped the table edge with a fingertip. Spit it out, what do you want? I stopped being coy and spoke in a cooing tone. My birthday's in a few days. Tori, I want to celebrate it at sea. Victoria, as usual, indulged me, whatever Ethan says. Tori, I want another $10 million. Victoria's eyes flickered with the slightest ripple of emotion at my words. What's the matter? Has the limit on the black card I gave you run out? I quickly waved my hand. Of course it's enough. The main issue was my obsessive-compulsive tendencies. Having $10 million just sitting in my bank account felt unbearable. I wanted to round up the amount. Victoria's black card limit extended far beyond just $10 million. But transferring such a large sum all at once with the black card would definitely raise Victoria's suspicions. My voice softened with a hint of coquetry. But I really want it. Victoria's lips curled into a smile, her eyes softening with tender affection. "Alright, I'll transfer the money later," followed by a weary sigh. "But Ethan, I'm so tired from work today. And tomorrow I have to rearrange your birthday banquet from scratch. It would be nice if I could get some reward for this." Victoria rarely acted coquettish with me, but when she did, the tips of her ears would turn a tender pink. I walked over to Victoria, only to be pulled into her embrace. Victoria's kisses fell like scattered petals, gentle at first, then deepening into entwined passion between lips and teeth, carrying an almost uncontrollable fervor that gradually eroded my reason. Carrying Victoria toward the bedroom. 3 hours later, she still showed no signs of stopping. I pinched the soft flesh at her waist angrily and buried my flushed face in the quilt. "Victoria was just a liar. I don't trust a word she says." 3. Victoria had decorated the yacht extravagantly. To show how much she valued me, she invited nearly every notable figure from New York's upper-class circles. I took advantage of Victoria's absence and arrived at the pre-arranged pretend drowning spot with Dad. I took a deep breath and jumped in with my eyes closed. Countless waves of seawater rushed into my mouth and nose. There was no pre-arranged boat. Not surprisingly, I must have jumped in the wrong place. The seawater nearly submerged me, and my consciousness began to fade. When I woke up again, the first thing I saw was the ceiling. Old man beside me immediately perked up from his drowsy state when he saw I was awake. "You finally woke up." As if realizing he was being too emotional, he quickly reverted to his usual demeanor. "Foolish boy, couldn't even get the location right." Me. Later my father told me Victoria refused to believe I was dead. She bought dozens of salvage ships, keeping crews working around the clock in that stretch of ocean. During those days, Victoria practically turned all of New York upside down searching. She even declared that anyone who could find me could name their price, whatever she could give, she would. My father asked with some confusion, "Why are you suddenly leaving Victoria?" Logically speaking, she's got looks, money, and boundless energy. Hearing Dad mention her energy, my face turned red uncontrollably. "That's not important." I quietly pulled out 2 bank cards. $20 million. How much?" My father's face was filled with shock. "Enough for both of us to spend our whole lives." My father looked down at the bank card on the table, his smile harder to suppress than an AK-47. He picked up the bank card and tucked it into his own pocket. "Actually, love isn't really all that important. To escape Victoria, Dad and I fled all the way to Austin, thousands of miles away. Just to be safe, Dad and I laid down 3 rules. First, we wouldn't touch the money from Victoria. Instead, we'd spend the $10 million her rival had given us. This $10 million is more than enough for me and my old man to live out the rest of our days in style. Over the past 3 years, I've completely transformed into a wealthy, attractive first-generation entrepreneur, never short of beautiful women around me. Tonight, as usual, I came to the bar and booked a private room. I invited my usual favorite 18 female companions to discuss life's ideals. After just 2 cocktails, my head was already spinning, and my face was flushed with tipsy redness. "Ethan, drink less," said a delicate-looking girl nearby as she snatched my glass and popped a grape into my mouth. My face flushed red as I took back my glass, bragging defiantly, "I'm not drunk at all, I can still drink more." After downing several more glasses, my vision grew even blurrier. A sharp sound of a beer bottle shattering came from the next table. With eerie regularity, every few seconds, one after another. What the hell? So annoying. Driven by alcohol, I kicked open the door to the next room. Inside was pitch black, with only a sliver of light filtering in from the hallway. "What's with the bottle smashing? Cut it out." My words were met with deathly silence. I could vaguely sense there was more than one person in the private room, and it was chillingly cold. My drunkenness mostly faded as I swallowed hard. I slammed the door shut again and returned to my private room. I slumped onto the central sofa, and the girls around me, noticing my foul mood, rushed to comfort me. Before I could even settle in properly, the door to my private room was violently kicked open. The woman stood outside the door, draped in a black coat, her eyes dark and predatory, watching me like prey. That face, long blurred in my memory, suddenly sharpened before my eyes. My drunkenness vanished entirely as I collapsed to the floor. Victoria entered, followed by a dense crowd of people. She approached me, her eyes narrowing slightly, a smile playing on her lips, unreadable yet deliberate. He reached out to pull me up from atop 18 female companions and drew me into his embrace. Victoria glanced at the beauties surrounding me, then leaned in close to my ear and whispered ominously, "You liar. 3 years apart, and you've been living quite the indulgent life." Trembling in Victoria's arms, countless cleanup strategies flashed through my mind. I believed there was no problem that a bout of amnesia couldn't solve. I suddenly shoved Victoria aside and instantly channeled my inner drama queen, clutching my head in exaggerated agony. My head hurts so bad, I moaned, leaving everyone around stunned by my sudden outburst. My face contorted in pain as if I were lost in some traumatic memory. Victoria stood to the side, quietly observing my performance. After half a minute, I lifted my deathly pale face. I looked at Victoria and spoke hesitantly, "Big sister?" I tentatively called out to Victoria. In the past, to gain sympathy, I had told Victoria I had an older sister, but she'd been kidnapped by human traffickers, leaving just my dad and me to depend on each other. Seeing Victoria remain unmoved, my eyes instantly reddened. Standing before her in tears, I choked out, "I thought I'd never see you again. Did those villains harm you?" I adopted that fragile, pitiable demeanor of old as I feigned concern for Victoria. A mocking smile played at Victoria's lips as her expression grew increasingly frosty. Amnesia? I felt a chill run down my spine under her gaze but tried to maintain my composure. But I never expected Victoria to actually continue the conversation based on my words. "So Ethan has finally remembered his sister." Victoria sat down on the leather sofa beside her, removing her gold-rimmed glasses, her voice husky. "Come here, sit on your sister's lap." Victoria truly is the woman I chose, sick enough to match me. Amusement was unmistakable in Victoria's eyes. Hilarious? Who's scared of who? It's not like I've never sat on one before. Keeping a straight face, I walked up to Victoria and directly settled onto her long legs. The scorching heat beneath me instantly burned against my thighs, impossible to ignore. I should have known better than to wear shorts. The private room's flickering lights cast shadows as thick, stagnant intimacy hung in the air. Victoria's sandalwood fragrance made me momentarily lose myself. I remember our first meeting, the very time she bumped into me. When she carried me into her car, I faintly caught her soothing sandalwood scent, inexplicably comforting. Victoria wrapped her arm around my waist, the calloused pad of her fingertip grazing my bare skin, the warm touch sending shivers down my spine. "Big sis, this isn't appropriate." I seized the chance to push away Victoria's restless hand. Hearing the words "big sis," Victoria was so furious she laughed outright. One hand seized the back of my head as her teeth nipped at my earlobe. I covered my mouth but couldn't suppress a soft moan escaping. Victoria watched me with the gaze of a predator, her throat bobbing slightly. "Ethan, 3 years apart, and you're still this sensitive. And don't call me sister." I forced composure, continuing my nonsense. "I don't know what you're talking about." Victoria's eyes turned frosty, pinning my hand on the table. She toyed with the sharp knife in her grasp. The blade barely grazed past my knuckles. My breath caught, my hand trembling violently. "Liar, left hand or right hand?" Victoria's face betrayed little emotion. She rarely acted like this, which inexplicably made my heart race with panic. I tried to pull my hand back, but Victoria's grip was simply too strong. No matter how hard I tried, it was futile. Victoria looked up, still calling me Jia. I shook my head like a rattledrum, embodying flexibility. "No more, no more." "Then what should I call you?" I ventured timidly. "Tori?" Not bad." Victoria's lips were dangerously close to my ear, her whisper feather-light, tickling my heart. She suddenly planted light kisses on my eyelids, then my forehead, the bridge of my nose, and the corners of my lips. This relentless shower of tender kisses left my mind completely blank. Beside us, the 18 female attendants blushed and lowered their heads. At the entrance, Victoria's subordinates were either staring at the ceiling, studying their own shoes, or meticulously adjusting their already immaculate clothing. Indeed, when embarrassed, people always pretend to be busy. 6. Victoria led me into her Rolls-Royce and meticulously fastened the passenger seatbelt for me. She said she wanted to see where I live now, to witness just how comfortable my life was, so comfortable that I'd go through such lengths to leave her. I didn't dare look at her and muttered softly, "Can we not go?" Victoria stared at my furtive demeanor and instantly sensed something fishy. He directly had his underlings interrogate those 18 female companions I had invited. And they actually got results. That girl had once escorted me back home. Furious, I got out of the car and flipped her off. Her face flushed crimson as she lowered her head in embarrassment and shame. "I'm sorry, Ethan, but what she offered was simply too much." No sooner had she finished speaking than Victoria caught me and dragged me back to the car. Victoria's eyes turned icy, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. "Wonderful. You just casually tell some woman where you live?" I didn't dare reply to Victoria, tucking my head into my collar like a frightened quail. Victoria is already furious right now. I can't even imagine how angry she'll be when she comes to my place and sees someone she shouldn't. I left my phone at the bar, so all I can do is pray that Chloe isn't at my place. But unfortunately, things didn't go as I hoped. Just as we reached my apartment door, I was still trying to trick Victoria by saying I'd lost my keys. Then suddenly, the door swung open from inside. Chloe stood there holding a bowl of barbecue ribs, her gentle gaze resting on my face, a faint smile curling at the corners of her mouth. "Ethan's home early today, didn't run into any girls you like?" But when she saw Victoria behind me, Chloe's smile froze instantly. Victoria stared at Chloe's pajamas, her icy aura growing even colder. After all, what kind of girl wears Spider-Man pajamas? Victoria didn't need to guess. She already knew it was me. From behind me came Victoria's sinister voice. "Ethan, is this the surprise you prepared for me?" My heart pounded wildly, sweat soaking through my clothes along my back. For a moment, tension crackled like drawn swords between Victoria and Chloe. With just one phone call, Victoria summoned all her subordinates back. Chloe was outnumbered and couldn't hold her own as Victoria's lackeys beat her up, slapping her 80 times for good measure. Pinned to the ground by the group, she struggled to extend a hand, clumsily wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth. The gentle facade in her eyes had vanished, replaced by a fierce determination. "I won't take this lying down," she spat. "If you've got guts, fight me one-on-one." Victoria's expression darkened slightly. "Oh." Then she casually shot a meaningful glance at one of her subordinates. Victoria's subordinate proceeded to slap Chloe 80 more times across the face. Defeated, Chloe turned to me with a pained expression, pleading, "Ethan, are you really going to just watch her bully me? It hurts so much. If she dares to hit me today, she'll dare to hit you tomorrow." Victoria works non-stop at the company every day, treating her job as more important than you, and she's so temperamental. Unlike me, who only knows how to care for you, staying home every day to cook your favorite dishes. I secretly glanced at Victoria. Her eyes looked like she wanted to chop Chloe into 1,000 pieces right then and there. I didn't dare speak up for Chloe either, afraid it might backfire. I could only manage a perfunctory "oh." Seeing that Victoria and I gave the same response, Chloe froze. "What the heck? Did you two plan this together?" Victoria's expression shifted unpredictably, impossible to decipher. She dragged my hand and pulled me downstairs. Before leaving, she didn't forget to remind her subordinates to slap Chloe another 80 times. 7. The cold breeze from the car's air conditioner sent a shiver down my spine. Victoria sat in the driver's seat, her gaze at me seemingly indifferent, yet I still felt an overwhelming sense of pressure closing in. My heartbeat quickened involuntarily as I turned my face toward the window, solely to avoid Victoria's gaze. Victoria's voice was low, tinged with faint weariness. "Don't you have anything to explain, Chloe?" I asked, pretending not to know. "Yeah." My voice took on a slightly wounded tone. It was her, that petty woman threatened me. A flicker of emotion stirred in Victoria's eyes. "A threat?" I nodded, gazing sincerely into her eyes. "Chloe's father, the current head of her family. He found me and wanted me to cozy up to Victoria. He promised me $10 million if I could get Victoria to call off the engagement. To ensure the mission would be completed smoothly, I occasionally sneaked over to her house to report the progress to her father. Chloe was the youngest daughter of her father, a late arrival, so naturally, she was utterly doted on and indulged. But for some reason, Chloe always seemed to have it out for me. Every time I visited, she would see me and sarcastically call out, "Gold digger." I'm beyond speechless. Sometimes when she called too much, I'd just glare at her twice. She's 2 years younger than me, just a snot-nosed kid in my eyes. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. After completing the mission and getting paid, my old man and I ran off to Austin. Never expected Chloe would suddenly track me down in the 3rd year. She said she was sorry to me and also said many strange things. By that time, she had already blossomed into her looks, flawless in every way. But I never expected Chloe would actually move next door to me and become my neighbor. Of course, I didn't agree. "I'm just a gold digger." Chloe's face instantly turned ugly with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I'm such an idiot. I shouldn't have called you that earlier." Chloe threatened to reveal my whereabouts to Victoria unless I agreed. Great. She had me completely cornered. To piss Chloe off, I started going to bars every night to flirt with other women. Chloe knew all about it, but I never expected her to be surprisingly tolerant. As she put it, other women are just passers-by, but she's home. She even stole a copy of my keys, not for any other reason than to make hangover soup and all sorts of delicious meals for me when I returned from the bar. She would always deliberately cut her fingers and then use her green tea rhetoric to say, "Oh, it's just a tiny cut by accident. Don't you dare feel sorry for me." I vividly recounted everything to Victoria, even twisting some facts to my advantage. For some reason, Victoria's expression grew increasingly gloomy. The more I spoke, the more apprehensive I became. "So you'd rather be threatened than let me find you?" Me, damn it, she actually picked up on such an obscure point. I knew I couldn't nod, so I could only play the timid quail in front of her. Victoria suddenly leaned close to me, extending her hand. Terrified, I shut my eyes. Yet unexpectedly, Victoria abruptly buried me tightly against her chest. Her overcoat enveloped me completely, shielding me from the chilling air conditioning in the car. The base of Victoria's ears flushed with an unnatural crimson, her eyes reflecting a fragility and morbidity I'd never witnessed before. My heart tightened inexplicably. "I'm sorry for scaring you today." She suddenly apologized to me. Victoria wrapped herself around me more tightly and murmured to herself, "You don't know how terrified I was of losing you again. I don't have another life to trade for yours." I froze for a moment, somewhat confused as I asked Victoria, "What do you mean, exchanging your life for mine?" Realizing her outburst, Victoria's voice turned a few degrees cooler. "Nothing, I was just talking nonsense." I knew Victoria was hiding something from me, but since she refused to speak of it, naturally I couldn't get any answers. Victoria took me back to New York. The good news, Victoria didn't punish me for running away for 3 years. Bad news, she tied me to the bed in the bedroom with red velvet ropes. Truthfully, I can understand why she tied me up. Victoria is too insecure, she's terrified I'll run away again. But goddammit, why did she have to tie me up like some scene straight out of a cheesy erotic romance movie? It looks downright obscene. As expected, believing in love brings a lifetime of misfortune. 8. But Victoria didn't know I'd secretly hidden a pair of scissors. I struggled with all my might to break free from the restraints, ready to sneak out quietly. Little did I expect to run into Victoria's most loyal follower the moment I stepped outside. Marcus grew up with Victoria and remains her most capable subordinate. I never got along with him before. Miss, I think there's something wrong with Ethan. Don't let him deceive you, Victoria nodded faintly. Then she secretly told me that Marcus had been bad-mouthing me, and thoughtfully sent him to Africa to oversee a mine for a year. I thought Marcus would greet me with sarcasm when we met again, but he didn't. He told me that after I fell into the sea, Victoria had hired dozens of salvage boats to search for me relentlessly. Despite months of efforts, they found nothing. Victoria still refused to believe I was dead. She searched for me frantically day and night, turning all of New York and the surrounding cities upside down. She exhausted all her connections, just for that slim chance I might still be alive. But not a single good news came, and Victoria gradually sank into desolation, drowning herself in alcohol day after day. Victoria had never smoked before, yet developed a nicotine addiction shortly after my disappearance. A year later, precisely 1 year after I fell into the sea, Victoria seemed to have reached acceptance. She stopped sending salvage ships to search for my remains. That day, she wore the white dress I had gifted her for her birthday. Everyone thought Victoria had moved on, even Marcus believed so. Little did he know, that very night, Victoria actually jumped into the sea, clutching a stack of my photos in her arms. Fortunately, Marcus had noticed something off in her behavior that night and secretly followed her car. I risked my life to pull Victoria out of the sea. By then, Victoria had already lost consciousness, with no trace of struggle on her, as if she had peacefully gone to her death. Hearing this, my heart twisted into knots, my breath growing ragged. I had thought Victoria's affection for me was just a passing fancy, that she would tire of me sooner or later. What's more, she said she hated liars the most, and I was afraid she would hate me for deceiving her if she found out the truth. Yet I never expected she would jump into the sea for me. Then what happened next? I asked Marcus somewhat urgently, wanting to know how Victoria had spent those 3 years. Later, Ms. Victoria received some information that might be related to you. She chased you all the way abroad, thinking she had finally found you, only to discover it was just a man who bore an uncanny resemblance to you. So similar that I couldn't tell the difference between him and you, but she spotted it at a glance. This gave her hope, though the outcome wasn't what she'd wished for. In the remaining 2 years, she never gave up searching for you. Even if it only brings endless disappointment, I lowered my head, not daring to meet Marcus's eyes. I never expected my departure would turn Victoria into this state, because I knew, no matter how gentle Victoria pretended to be in front of me, it couldn't change the fact that she was the young lady who inspired terror throughout New York. I never believed I meant much to Victoria. When Victoria returned, the sky outside was lightly tinged with the glow of sunset. She came to the bedroom and saw that I had already untied the ribbon, but didn't get angry. The entire villa was filled with subordinates arranged by Victoria, so she wasn't afraid I might escape. Sorry for coming back a bit late, those old fossils on the board are such a pain to deal with. I suddenly embraced Victoria beside me, my voice choked with emotion. Victoria sensed something was wrong and asked anxiously, "Did someone make you unhappy?" I shook my head, wrapped my arms around Victoria's neck, and kissed her lips. Perhaps because she had just come back inside, Victoria's lips carried a trace of cold air. Victoria's body stiffened for a moment before she took the initiative, clasping the back of my head. The night was endlessly long, with the wind sweeping past the villa outside, while the tall reeds and pond water rose and fell throughout the night. That night, I vaguely recalled the past between Victoria and me. Victoria would hold me in her arms on countless late nights, listening to me chatter endlessly about all sorts of things that had happened during my day. Most of these things are actually quite boring. Even my old man finds me annoying. But Victoria would always look at me intently and listen to me finish what I have to say. Victoria would take me to various banquets and introduce me to others with grace, as if I were her one and only treasure. She once flew abroad just for a watch I liked. Then one day, she magically pulled it out from her pocket like a trick up her sleeve. She seemed to have changed for me, no longer the Victoria Grayson people spoke of. But at that time, I was always favored, already accustomed to it. I only felt that Victoria was kind to me, nothing more. 9. The next day, Victoria reluctantly let go of her arms from around me. I wanted to sleep in a bit longer after the exhausting night. Seeing that she couldn't wake me up, Victoria had no choice but to plant a tender, doting kiss on my forehead. By the time I got up, the aroma wafting from the kitchen lured me downstairs. The butler who'd been cooking at the villa regularly told me Victoria had personally made the meal, instructing them to reheat it when I woke up so I wouldn't have to eat it cold. A few days later, I told Victoria I needed to return to Austin to settle some matters with the house. Victoria wasn't comfortable letting me go alone, so she came with me to Austin. While Victoria was busy with work, I secretly drove off to retrieve my phone from the bar. But for some reason, after leaving the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were following my every move, an unsettling sensation that sent chills down my spine. I suddenly turned my head, but there was nothing there. I was about to hit the brakes on the highway when I found I couldn't press them at all. Oh no, it seems like the brakes failed. The car kept speeding forward out of control. My mind went blank. I wanted to find the right moment to jump out, but unexpectedly met a pair of eyes. Cameron's car was nearly parallel with mine. He stared at me with a twisted face, a sinister grin curling at the corners of his mouth. Bastard, go to hell. With that, he rammed his car directly into mine. After a violent impact, my car spun out of control and plunged off the overpass. Below the overpass lay a bottomless sea. Countless gallons of water rushed into my nose as I tried to abandon the car and escape, only to find the doors wouldn't open no matter how hard I tried. I struggled desperately, screaming for help, but the only response was the relentless gurgle of water surrounding me. I'm afraid I'm done for today. This is truly suffering the same misfortune twice. My consciousness was gradually fading, and darkness engulfed my vision. 10. When I woke up again, an intense pounding pain radiated from my head. With great effort, I opened my eyes, and wooden rafters came into view. I took a moment to steady myself and struggled to my feet to survey my surroundings. Only then did I realize I was in a dilapidated little wooden hut. Apart from the relatively clean bed where I lay, spiderwebs covered practically every other surface. The woman outside seemed to have heard the commotion and immediately burst in. "Ethan, are you awake?" I called out hesitantly. "Chloe?" Chloe's eyes suddenly lit up. "You remember me? I thought you might have amnesia." Truthfully, all I remember is her suddenly coming to find me and wanting to live next door. Everything else is a blank slate. I watched as her expression suddenly grew puzzled. Why could I only remember Chloe? But there was always one name lingering in my mind, Victoria. Unfamiliar yet hauntingly familiar. I turned to Chloe and asked, "Who is Victoria?" Chloe froze instantly, as if realizing I truly had lost my memory, her expression shifting subtly. With forced nonchalance, Chloe replied, "Just some bullying thug who only knew how to throw punches." "Beating people? A bully?" I asked curiously. "Has she ever hit you?" Chloe's face flushed red instantly upon hearing my words. "My family is immensely wealthy and influential. If she dared to lay a hand on me, I'd bankrupt her." I glanced around the dilapidated wooden cabin, finding it hard to reconcile with Chloe's claim of immense wealth. I think she's bragging, but it seems she did save me, so I'd feel bad calling her out on it. Chloe told me to stay in bed while she went fishing for our dinner. She also told me that she had already contacted her subordinates, and for the next few days, I would have to endure staying with her on this deserted island. Chloe had been gone for a long time, and the pitch-black night gradually enveloped the entire island. Apart from a dim yellowish light in the wooden cabin, everything else was swallowed by endless darkness. After what felt like an eternity, Chloe finally returned. I stared at the crab in the bucket, barely larger than my fingernail, locking eyes with Chloe in mutual bewilderment. "This is what you call dinner?" Chloe awkwardly turned her face away. "I never expected those fish to be so hard to catch. I couldn't get a single one, only managed to find some crabs." Me. For the remaining days, Chloe and I depended on each other for survival on the island. Aside from going hungry, everything else was quite alright. The scenery on the little island was beautiful, with the pale blue sea water impossibly clear, but Chloe and I weren't in the mood to appreciate it. The subordinates Chloe mentioned never came. Our fresh water was almost gone. If we couldn't find more water and it didn't rain soon, without starving, Chloe and I would die of thirst. Thankfully, Chloe discovered a tree bearing unknown fruits at the other end of the island. The tree was rather tall, and Chloe volunteered to climb up and pick the fruits. I nearly fell several times during the climb, my heart pounding as I watched Chloe from below. Good news, Chloe's hand was just inches away from the fruit. Bad news, she lunged upward with sudden force, snapping the tree beneath her weight. The fruit from the high branches came crashing down, splitting my head open. I didn't even have time to dodge. Truth be told, I'd always known that Jinx Chloe would be the death of me someday. I never expected it to happen this way. When I opened my eyes again, Chloe was sitting by my bedside. "You're awake," she exclaimed, gripping my hand excitedly. But what she didn't know was that I remembered everything. Everything, including Victoria. With a chilling tone, I spoke, "Chloe, who is Victoria?" Chloe's hand trembled as she blurted out her usual nonsense. "Just a bullying thug who only knows how to hit people." "The one who had his underlings beat you up 3 times in a row?" Chloe suddenly stood up. "How did you know?" I smiled a humorless smile. "What do you think?" She realized I'd regained my memories and stared at me in disarray, her face flushing crimson. "You remember everything now." At 11 p.m., while Chloe and I were sound asleep, the door was suddenly thrown open. Chloe immediately woke up and vigorously shook me beside her. "Get up! I told you my people would come rescue us." But unexpectedly, it was Victoria who arrived. Her eyes bloodshot, Victoria tightly embraced me, my head still wrapped in layer after layer of bandages, completely ignoring Chloe beside us. Her voice choked with emotion, trembling. "Ethan, you scared me again." Chloe's face looked as if she'd just eaten shit nearby, while Victoria carried me onto the helicopter. Standing below the aircraft, Chloe asked Victoria, "You wouldn't leave me to die, would you?" Victoria didn't even spare her a glance, her hands busy examining my injuries. "Why wouldn't I? You're ruthless." In the end, Chloe showed weakness first, and only then did Victoria reluctantly allow her to board the helicopter. Chloe, sitting in the back of the plane, stared at Victoria and me embracing each other, grinding her teeth so hard they might shatter. 12. Victoria told me that Cameron had been arrested, convicted of intentional homicide, and would soon face legal punishment. On my first night back in New York, Victoria held me tightly as we slept, refusing to let go as if afraid I'd vanish again. That night, I had a very strange dream. I dreamed of Victoria at our high school graduation, standing next to some boy. His curved eyebrows and eyes when he smiled looked extraordinarily handsome, even through a thin mist. I walked up to them and got a clear look at the boy's features. I couldn't believe my eyes. The boy standing beside Victoria bore a 90% resemblance to me, yet we were completely different types. When he smiled, sweet dimples appeared, gentle and playful, the very image of a refined aristocratic young master. He tugged at the side of Victoria's school uniform, a shy blush creeping up to the tips of his ears. Victoria glanced down at him tenderly and took a step closer to him. In a place where no one could see, she secretly linked her fingers with that boy's hand. Then I suddenly entered the next dream. This time, the Victoria in the dream was completely different from the one just now. Free from the youthful naivety of her younger days, she sat before the easel in an elegant black gown. As I approached, I discovered Victoria was painting that young man who bore an uncanny resemblance to me 9 parts out of 10. When the painting was done, Victoria locked it away in the study safe. Inside that safe, the accumulated sketches formed a thick stack, hundreds upon hundreds at the very least. That safe Victoria never let me touch, saying it contained business secrets. But in the dream, the safe held only that pile of paintings stacked like a small mountain. In the dream, Victoria suddenly stood up and turned to face me directly. Her gaze was icy, as if she had discovered my presence. I jolted awake in terror, sitting bolt upright in bed. "Ethan, what's wrong?" Victoria woke startled by my sudden movement. "Nothing, just a nightmare," I said between gasps for air. "I'm going to the kitchen for some water." Hearing this, Victoria immediately got up. "Let me pour it for you." "No need, I can go by myself. I need to use the restroom anyway." Seeing my insistence on going alone, Victoria didn't stop me but instead draped an extra layer of clothing over me, worried I might catch a chill outside. I stealthily made my way into Victoria's study. Judging from that dream, it seemed Victoria had hidden the safe's key beneath the rug. I retrieved the key from under the rug, took a deep breath, inserted it into the keyhole, and turned. The safe clicked open, revealing nothing but portraits of that boy. I flipped through them rapidly, my breath coming in short gasps. Each portrait had writing on the back. "Julian, I couldn't sleep at night, I missed you terribly. Julian, how I long to see your lively eyes again, those eyes that seem capable of holding the entire universe. You always say my eyes are prettier, you fool. That's only because they reflect you. This world is exceptionally absurd and deathly silent. Without a glimmer of light, I truly miss Julian so much. Julian, if we were to meet again, I couldn't be sure what version of me you'd like. But it doesn't matter, I'll pretend to be whatever you prefer, as long as you're pleased. Julian, I'm so terrified this is nothing but a grand, cruel trick. Whether you're truly still alive, whether you're still in this world, waiting day after day, it's utterly despairing. After reading countless notes on the backs of those sheets, I finally learned that the boy was named Julian, a very beautiful name. Each portrait below was marked with a date. The date on the topmost portrait happened to be the day Victoria hit me with her car. After that, Victoria never painted another picture. In a daze, I recalled that day, after I was hit, Victoria stepped out of the car. She stared at my face, her eyes bloodshot. So when Victoria gazed into my eyes for so long back then, was she looking at me or seeing Julian through them? I didn't dare dwell on it, the mere thought made my heart ache unbearably. I was crazed with the urge to confront Victoria with these paintings. But I knew that once the lies were exposed, Victoria and I would be completely through. 13. I slammed the thick stack of paintings onto Victoria's head. Victoria stared blankly at the scattered portraits around her. I clenched my fists tightly. "Aren't you going to explain anything?" Victoria suddenly embraced me, her voice eerily calm. "You found out? So Ethan, when will you remember me?" "What do you mean?" I froze as Victoria pushed me onto the bed, made me sit properly, then stared at me intently. Ethan, what I'm about to say might be beyond your current understanding, but I promise everything I say is true. Victoria told me she had known me in our previous lifetime. In her past life, she was an adopted daughter of a wealthy New York family, while I was the eldest young master from LA's upper-class circle, transferred to study in New York. The moment I arrived at that high school, I was smitten by Victoria, renowned as the school's academic goddess, and launched an ardent pursuit of her. But Victoria wouldn't give me the time of day. Everyone laughed at me, calling me a lapdog, but what they never expected was that after graduating high school, Victoria and I ended up together. Victoria and I fell deeply in love, even reaching the stage of discussing marriage. Unfortunately, I was in a car accident. Actually, I could have survived, but the drunk driver panicked and fled immediately, leaving me behind. By the time others found me, my blood had completely drained away. Reluctantly, Victoria buried me with solemn rites, vowing never to marry in this lifetime. A full year after my death, Victoria heard a voice. The voice asked if she would trade her own life for a chance to bring me back. Only in the next life, I would no longer be the young master of Los Angeles. No one knows who I might become. Victoria asked it. Then how will I find Julian? It told Victoria that as long as she found me, her heart would ache intensely. Though somewhat absurd, Victoria believed it. In this lifetime, Victoria was still the adopted daughter of a wealthy New York family. She had been searching for me, until she accidentally bumped into me later. Victoria's eyes turned red at the corners. At that moment, I was so relieved. My Ethan had finally returned, and I no longer had to rely on those paintings to get by. I was a bit confused, but Victoria didn't seem to be lying. No, this isn't fair. Why were you reborn into a wealthy New York family in your second life while I became a broke nobody in New York? Victoria, Ethan, is that really the point here? How is that not important? I genuinely felt so wronged. During the toughest times with my dirt poor father, we survived by collecting aluminum cans to sell for money. Now you're telling me I was the young master of Los Angeles in my past life who could handle that kind of contrast. 12. That night Victoria and I talked until well past 3 in the morning. I just couldn't hold on any longer, hugging Victoria as I fell asleep, telling her we'd talk tomorrow. In my sleep, my head throbbed violently as countless memories from past lives flooded my mind like tidal waves. I remembered everything, all my history with Victoria, even glimpses of Chloe. I called Chloe. Ethan, is that you? I cleared my throat. Chloe, I remember now, including past lives. The other end of the phone fell into silence. Then I remember, you were that creepy stalker. Chloe got pissed. You're the creep. Your whole family's creeps. It was a crush. You know what a crush is? I suppressed my laughter. Oh. In her previous life, Chloe was an excellent student, but her family was dirt poor. The class bully often picked on her, piling his clothes and books on her desk. Once when Chloe wasn't paying attention, she spilled water on the bully's clothes. The bully grabbed her by the collar, demanding she pay for the damage. Chloe clenched her pale school uniform sleeve, her face burning red. I happened to pass by the door of their classroom and rescued the flustered Chloe in that moment. Ever since then, I couldn't shake the feeling of someone watching me from behind, following me. Until one day, a shrill scream erupted behind me. Chloe, too preoccupied with trailing me, failed to watch her step and tumbled straight into an uncovered manhole. I once again felt the injustice of life. Chloe was born into wealth this lifetime. Was I the only one destined to be poor? Chloe said it wasn't until the second year after I ran away that she suddenly remembered her past life. She searched for me frantically. Speaking of Victoria, Chloe forced out the words with difficulty. Ethan, you and Victoria would be happy together, right? Have you ever liked me, even just a little bit? I fell silent. I'm sorry, Chloe. Chloe seemed to let go, her voice trembling slightly. Then Ethan must be happy. Victoria had just stepped out of the bedroom when she overheard my conversation with Chloe. She pulled me into her embrace, nibbling at my earlobe with a hint of jealousy. Ethan, you kept me up until 3 a.m. yesterday. I'm exhausted now and want compensation. I knew Victoria was saying this for Chloe to hear. Chloe, seriously? Victoria, you bitch. Victoria seized the chance to hang up, leaving Chloe roaring on the other end. I feigned anger and pinched the soft flesh at Victoria's waist, yet I silently indulged her behavior. 13 later, Victoria and I traveled to Iceland together. Continuous glaciers stretched before us as icy winds howled past. The pink twilight bled across the entire sky, surreal in its beauty. I carried Victoria on my back as we strolled along the black sand beach. She buried her head in my coat, listening to the waves crashing nearby. Victoria's drum-like heartbeat was clearly audible. After returning to the country, Victoria and I didn't immediately go back to New York. Instead, we went to the southern coastal city of Savannah. As evening fell, the city lights began to glow. A faint yellow glow made the night less dark. After finishing dinner, Victoria and I took a walk together on the street. Victoria occasionally looked up, and the cascading lights softened her entire appearance. The evening wind was piercingly cold. Seeing me shiver, Victoria noticed. Take off your coat and put it on me, then give me your scarf. I tucked my face into the warm scarf. Suddenly, I felt a cool, ticklish sensation on my eyelashes. Tiny snowflakes began to fall from the sky. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I pinched my thigh hard, and my eyes instantly reddened. Do you want to go back to the hotel? I shook my head. I'd like to walk a bit more. Just wandering aimlessly like this. Victoria curled her lips into a faint smile. All right. She naturally interlocked her fingers with mine, the warm familiar touch bringing immense comfort. At this very moment, Victoria no longer seemed like the New York socialite people spoke of, she was simply my Tory. The snow fell heavier and heavier, as if it would continue till the end of time. Before long, Victoria and I had snowflakes dusting our hair. The road stretched endlessly ahead with no end in sight. Fortunately, there were streetlights. Our parting in the past life had been too abrupt. Thankfully, heaven gave Victoria and me another chance. This time, I will never, ever let go of her hand again. And so, hand in hand with Victoria, we walked until our hair turned white. The end.